can start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Nadil Iqtisad al-Islami is privileged to conduct the fourth lecture on the Islamic legal maxims in Islamic financial transactions, and the lecture will be conducted by our Dr. Luqman Zakaria today. So this is the fourth lecture by the Dr. Luqman Zakaria on the legal maxims and شرح القواعد الفقهية وتطبيقاتها في المالية في المعاملات المالية. So we would like to welcome all the participants, attendees, Asatida, and our management board, Dr. Ala, all the management boards to this lecture. Thank you very much for joining us. So without further ado, let me invite Professor Dr. Luqman Zakaria to conduct his lecture on Islamic legal maxims in Islamic financial transactions. Please welcome Professor Dr. Luqman.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهدي ونتوب إليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
First of all, I thank our moderator, Dr. Muhyiddin, for the welcoming. We also thank all our participants all over the world for coming to this forum to share the knowledge of Islam on Islamic legal maxims in Islamic financial transaction. Before I start, I would like to confirm whether the slide is showing. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, it's clear, Doctor. It's clear.
That's good. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Last week, we treated the third legal maxim, which is al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir. And before that, we treated the second one, which is al-yaqin la yazulu bi-shakk. And the first lesson was about al-umur bi-maqasidiha. So we've treated three legal maxims which are very general and basic, and they consider those legal maxims as the fundamental of all the legal maxims, al-qawaid al-kulliya al-khamsa. So today we are going to discuss the fourth one, which is الضرر يزال أو لا ضرر ولا ضرار لا ضرر ولا ضرار. That is the fourth legal maxims that all the Muslim scholars agreed upon. This legal maxim has been coded as maxims on prevention and elimination of harm. That is, دفع ورفع الضرر في المعاملات المالية الإسلامية. So the legal maxims which we are going to talk about will be either الضرر يزال or لا ضرر ولا ضرار. The reason why we put the two together is that in most theses or books on al-qawaid al-fiqhiyya, we will see that الضرر يزال is the fourth one. But later, some scholars, especially Sheikh al-Nadawi and others, they opine that لا ضرر ولا ضرار should be the fourth one. Why? It's because this legal maxim or hadith of the Prophet, which is لا ضرر ولا ضرار, is the hadith of the Prophet. And it has very strength and powerful expression. However, some say that, well, As a nature of legal maxims, we quote these legal maxims from the Adillat al-Shari'iyya from the Quran and Sunnah. So to make ad-darar yuzal as a legal maxim and put the hadith of the Prophet as the evidence for the maxims is very important. Sheikh Ahmed al-Zarqa believes that both of them are legal maxims. La darar wa la darara is a legal maxim, and ad-darar yuzal is a legal maxim. The first one, which la darar wa la darara, is
Yeah, I think Dr. Lakman is out of network. We wait for him to join us again. We apologize for the inconvenience, and while waiting for Dr. Lakman, we wait for Dr. Lokman to join us again. Meanwhile, I would like to request the participants, if you have some questions or if you need explanation, you can write your comment or question in the question and answer section. You can leave your question or comment or anything that you need explanation, you can write or you can leave in the question and answer section. I think Dr. Lukman is joining us again.
has been misbehaving in this area for the past 1 week or 2 weeks. Uh, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes.
Dr. Mahidin?
Yes, you can proceed, Doctor. Now it's okay.
Okay, and you are seeing the slide as well?
Yeah. I think you need to make it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we make it bigger. Okay, so as I was saying, I will talk about these legal maxims, then I will talk about the subsidiaries of those legal maxims, then we now go to the application before the end of the lesson. Now, this legal maxim is about the elimination of darar in Islamic law. It encompasses all aspects of darar in Islam that can be befalling Muslims. Many subjects of Islamic law and is widely applicable to any matters that could incur darar to the Muslims. Averting and elimination of harm in Islamic obligatory duty are the purpose of the maxim, meaning that the maxim comes to say that be it in doing ibadah, don't harm anybody because you want to perform ibadah, and don't even incur darar to yourself. Also, in dealing with human beings, never attempt to harm human being and never allow darar to occur to you. Some Muslim scholars, as I said, they prefer to say ad-darar yuzal as a maxim, but majority of Muslim scholars, especially today, they prefer to say la darara wa la darara as a legal maxim and any other maxim to be a subsidiary of this tradition of the Prophet. Az-Zarqa, a sheikh, as I said, distinguishes between the two. He says, the maxim stated by the tradition of the Prophet stands as a prohibition of inflicting darar, and the other one indicates that if darar occurs, that is, harm occurs for anyone or other, it should be removed. That darar must be removed, meaning that the first one and the second one are working together. The hadith prohibits any kind of darar, any kind of harm to human being. And the second one, which is a darar user, says whenever darar happens, whenever there is a darar, be it from human being or natural, must be removed for the easiness in Islam. Thus, the two legal maxims are characteristically distinct. So these legal maxims encompasses many subjects in Islamic law, as I've already said, and it is also an element of the protection of the necessity. It is also used whenever there is any reason to protect the Daruriyat al-Khams. This legal maxim could be invoked, meaning that when you want to defend your religion and there's any darar in the face of defending the deen, then that darar could be eliminated or could be removed. I can remember one of the opinions of the Muslim scholars is that when there is a war between Muslims and non-Muslims, and a Muslim is used to defend themselves, then it is allowed to eliminate that Muslim in order to secure the darar for the whole Muslims. I will come to that when I'm talking about the al-qawaid al-far'iyya, the legal maxims which are subsidiary of this. Also, in terms of life, we have to protect our life from any harmful occurrence. So when there is any reason to protect your life and there is darar facing you, then you can weigh the two, between the two darar, in order to protect your life. Similarly, your offspring, similarly, your property, intellect, and so on and so forth. So the maxims emphasize the purpose of Sharia, that is Maqasid Sharia, and their actualization and realization by way of deterrence or preventative measure, that is Sadd al-Dhariya, or minimization of this occurrence. What I mean by this is that when you want to protect the Maqasid Sharia in terms of the actualization, there could be darar in two ways. You want to actualize the Maqasid Sharia. Let us say you want to protect and actualize the wealth, and there's darar facing you in doing that, then that darar can be eliminated. If someone takes your property, steal your property, what Islam says is that the person must, the one who took your property must be punished in order to eliminate the darar that could befall you. Similarly, the punishment ascribed to theft is also in terms of elimination of darar for the victims. Also, to realize the Maqasid Sharia, a darar must be eliminated if it become a hindrance, that is many for actualization, realization of the Maqasid Sharia. Sometimes Islam will prohibit something, not because originally that thing is bad, but in terms of Saddu Dhariya. And that Saddu Dhariya is to prevent the darar that could occur if it happens. Let me give you an example. The prohibition of riba, as I will say later, is of this nature. Yes, of course, you can benefit from riba, but the consequence of that riba, the harmful aspect of that riba, on the ummah, on the society, on the economic is very huge. For that reason, Islam will prohibit anything like that. Similarly, drinking alcohol is prohibited. Yes, of course, there is a pleasure in it, but the ithm is more than the benefits that you want to derive from it. It may not be you directly, you may enjoy drinking alcohol, but the consequence of drinking it, it will harm others. Let's see in the Western world, when people drink when people drink alcohol, they misbehave. They kill human beings on the road when they drive. They insult people unknowingly because of the alcohol intoxication. So Islam will now prohibit something like that. يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. So the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits this is that the harmful aspect of it is more than the benefit we want to derive. So this legal maxims has a basis from the Quran and Sunnah. And we've said that that hadith itself, la darar wa la dirara, which forms the maxim, is hadith of the prophets, which reported by host of many Sahaba, among them Abu Huraira, Ubadat ibn Samit, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Abdullah ibn Abbas. All of them reported this hadith from the Prophet, and it is narrated by Muslim, by Ibn Majah and Al-Bayhaqi, though the hadith has been classified as Hasan because of many turuq, many chains of the hadith. So that is also the basis of that hadith. And we also find in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited any kind of darar. When he says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا لَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. Never withhold human wives in order to transgress on them. لَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. Don't hold your wives back in order to harm them. And also in the Quran, Allah says, وَلَا تُضَارُّهُنَّ لِتُضَيِّقُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ. That is, do not harm them in order to make life difficult for the women. And also, وَلَا تُضَارَّ وَالِدَةٌ بِوَلَدِهَا. All these verses in the Quran, Surah Al-Talaq and Surah Al-Baqarah, are evidence that any kind of darar is not allowed in Islam. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits any of us to give the orphans their money, their property, until they become matured, so that they will not have been harmed by giving them this. So all these verses in the Quran are the elements and the basis for the justification for the maxim. Also, it has been reported that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining about another man who had planted a tree on his land. And that tree causes a kind of harm, darar, to the owner of the land. Because of this, the Prophet asked the man to pay compensation to the owner of the land, or to give that plant to the owner of the land as a gift, so that that harm, that difficulty, that harm that before the owner will be eliminated. And the man refused to do that. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't have option than to ask the owner of the land to destroy the plants, and said to the owner of the plants, you are harming someone. Innaka tadurru akhaka. You are harming other one, you are harming your brother. So you see now that the Prophet ﷺ, in this case, refused to give the one who is causing harm to other a kind of rights. saying that if you cannot do what you should do to eliminate harm from your brother, then you may be harmed. You may be harmed because a that darar that you are inflicting on your brother must be ended, must be removed. So in that hadith, the Muslim scholars believe that harm in any way must be removed for someone who is feeling that harm. So the general interpretation of this uh, legal maxim will be that if someone is feeling harmful atmosphere, Islam has given him chance to find way of removing it. And if someone is harming or causing harm to others, the Islam has given us jurisdiction to remove that kind of harm. So, ad-darar and dirar has been interpreted as that darar is that you are harming your brother without any justification. You are harming your brother without any justification. While the rara is that you are harming someone in reciprocation. That is, someone harm you and you want to retaliate, then you are causing harm to him. In both sides, Islam doesn't encourage something like that. There are some other interpretation on this particular darar, wa darar. Some scholars say that a darar is an harm that you do لك منفعة وعلى جارك فيه ضرر. A darar is that you are doing something which is beneficial to you, but it is harmful to others. And ad-darara is something that you are doing ليس لك منفعة. It doesn't have any benefit for you, and it is also harmful to others. So in that case, let me give you an example of interpretation of these two words. Darar wa darar is that someone harm you and you want to retaliate back to him. That retaliation may not give you any kind of benefit. So that is darar. And that is why Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تُمْسِكُهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. That is, your wife offends you and you want to retaliate by punishing her. Then you shouldn't do that to the extent that you will transgress. You will transgress on her. Or someone causes you harm and you want to retaliate, then you are causing harm to him as well, even sometimes more than the harm that it causes. So that is darar. But ad-darar is that someone doesn't cause you any problem, but you want to benefit from something and you are causing darar. For instance, you park on the streets where people should pass. You are causing darar. You are causing what? Darar, because there is a manfa for you to park there, but at the same time, you are causing harm for others. And that is what it is mentioned in hadith of the Prophet, where it says, Innaka tadurru akhaka. You are harming your brother. You have benefits by planting something on the land, but at the same time, you are harming the others. So you have to find one way or the other to eliminate something like that. So Ibn Abd al-Barr in his Tamhid gives an interesting distinction between the two words, as you've seen. He says, ad-darar is harm inflicted on another, and from which the perpetrator derives benefits. That is, he has manfa, as I said. While the darar is harm inflicted on another, from which no one benefits. No one benefits. Neither you nor the other person benefit from the darar that you are causing. So More generally, one may consider 4 types of activities in our life. In our life, we have something which is beneficial, that are apparent. The benefits is apparent for us. Okay? And there is no any kind of harmful to others. So meaning that beneficial ones that are apparently beneficial, all of us know that this action is beneficial for everyone. And the second one is beneficial ones, that is activities which are beneficial that are not clearly beneficial. We may think that it is beneficial, but there is no any clear cut that it is beneficial. This third one is harmful ones that are apparently harmful. And the fourth one is harmful ones that are not apparently harmful. So in the first one and the third one, there is no any problem about this. That anything that is beneficial and apparently known that it is beneficial, we can embark on it. In as much as it will not harmful to others and it will not be harmful to us, but it is beneficial. The other one, it is harmful and apparently known to all of us that it is harmful. Both of them, the first one we can embark, the other one we shouldn't embark on it. But the one which is not apparently clear, whether beneficial or harmful, is the bone of contention in Islam. And if you see in the Quran, when Allah was talking about drinking of alcohol, He told us that there is manafi' in it, but the harmful aspect of it is more, and He prohibits it. So for the Muslim to embark on any action, we should be very careful of the consequence. And I will quickly give you an example now. When we are dealing with riba, we may not know that it is apparently harmful, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given injunction on it. More especially when there is any reason or scientific proof that interest is causing problem for the society, then it becomes harmful. But there are some other activities like a tawarruk, organized tawarruk, whereby we may not know that it is harmful to others, but the economists have proven it that it is harmful, then it becomes makruh, detestable action for the Muslim to do. Similarly, bi'ul gharar, a deceptive contract. We know for sure that it is harmful to others, but you who want to sell it, you may benefit from this. So the Muslim should. So difference between the third and the fourth maxim. Here we have talked about al-mashaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir last week. And today we are talking about ad-darar. So there are two words there, mashaqqa and darar. When we are talking about al-mashaqqa last week, we interpret it as hardship. Hardship. So the Muslim scholar, when they're distinguishing between the two, that is al-mashaqqa and ad-darar, they said al-mashaqqa is something that giving you difficulties when you are doing the action, the act of ibadah. When you are doing anything in Islam and it is very hard for you to do it, then they call it mashaqqa. So that is, it is naturally not invented by humans. Okay? And it is also relative. And claiming that is when you want to claim this hardship is relative, because sometimes something harsh for others may not be harsh to you. So it's relative, but it is natural, something natural that you are not the one causing it. We are not the one inventing it. However, a darar, which is harm, occurs from humans to himself or to other fellow, and usually invented. So these are the technical differences between al-mashaqqa and ad-darar, that is the third legal maxim and the fourth legal maxim. Subsidiaries. The subsidiary legal maxims are these. First, ad-darar yuzal, that is, injury or harm should be removed. It should be removed. This legal maxim is talking about when something happened, which is darar. We have to find every way, every means to remove it. Why? It's because Islam doesn't encourage any harmful thing to human. Even in terms of prohibition of drinking of alcohol, despite the fact that there is manafi in it for some people, simply because there is harm in it to the general populace, then Islam says is not allowed. That is an act of removing these harm so that it will not occur to the general public, since it is individual benefits. The other legal maxim, which is subsidiary far'iyya to the main one, is ad-darar yudfa biqadri al-imkan. Ad-darar yudfa biqadr al-imkan. That is, harm should be prevented as much as possible. Yes, yudfa wa yurfa. It could be in both ways. Harm should be prevented and removed as much as possible. But the other legal maxims later, the third one and the fourth one, could be taken care of removing. But this one is taking care of prevention. That is why they said, ad-darar yudfa biqadr al-imkan. That is, you shouldn't allow any darar to happen. You should make sure that there is no any darar happen. Any way to prevent any harm should be encouraged. And that would be one of the reasons why alcohol, riba are being prohibited in Islam. Because they will be eventually harmful to human beings. They will be eventually, when you see the interest rates, when the interest rate high to maybe 10, and people realize that, oh, there is a problem in interest-based banking and loan. Then they come down to the level of 1%, 0.5%. That is also harmful when there is accumulation of this, as I will explain later on. So prevention of harm is paramount in Islam. So we shouldn't allow it to happen. Similarly, in any kind of activities in the markets, we shouldn't allow harm to happen before the government prevent them. So that is why to give the pricing of commodity in the market is encouraged today. Otherwise, people will be exploiting others. From there, the Muslim scholar said, this is part of the maslaha am, public interest, to make sure that things are being given price, especially when you know that people will exploit others when the market is too open without any pricing. The other maxim is ad-darar la yuzalu bimithlihi. Harm is not repealed, is not removed by its like. Or ad-darar la yuzalu bil-darar. Harm is not repealed with harm. Meaning that if you want to repeal harm occur, that is, injury occur in any reason, for any reason, and you want to remove that harm, it shouldn't be the same unless if you are sure that when you remove it, it will be the same or it will be lesser. You shouldn't go for methyl bimethyl in terms of harm because there will be no any reason for removing harm that will cause another harm equal to it. And an example is the scholar said that you cannot kill human being in order to save your life. You cannot kill human being like you, a Muslim like you, in order for you to prevent or protect your life. Because it's the same. The dollar you want to remove from yourself is the same thing you want to inflict on another. Likewise, two individual Muslims are about to die for any reason. So there is a medication for you to use. And you say, oh, let me die, I will give it to another person. It's not encouraged in Islam, although there are some rules and regulations on these that, well, if prevention of that life will be more beneficial to the masses than yours, probably you may do it. In Islamic finance, I will explain how they are being applied in Islamic finance in due course. The other one is ad-darar al-ashad yuzal bi darar al-akhaf. Yes, when you are sure that this darar is too much, then there is a way of removing it with another lesser darar. Then that lesser darar can be done in order to prevent the bigger one. So you should not allow the bigger darar to happen when you can embark on the darar al-akhaf. So greater harm should be prevented by committing lesser harm. By committing lesser harm. The Muslim scholars, they've explained how this can be applied in different ways, especially in criminal law. In criminal law, when masses are going to be destroyed, then if you can sacrifice someone to save all these people, the Islamic law allows something like that. As I mentioned in my in my introduction, that if a single Muslim has been used by non-Muslims to conquer Muslims, then it is allowed to get rid of one Muslim in order to prevent all other Muslims. Similarly, we can do this saying, well, someone who wants to embark on riba, you want to take riba, and that riba you want to take is to save yourself, is to save yourself. That is to prevent the darar befalls you. But the darar that will occur to the masses as a result of your benefit will be too huge. Then Islam prohibits you to have that riba, which is darar al-akhas or al-akhaf, in order to prevent the darar al-ashad on the whole masses, on the whole masses. So in that case, a prohibition of riba is being authentic because the masses will be injured, or they will be having a kind of hardship as a result of your own benefits. And Islam doesn't allow something like that because irtikab akhaf ad-darrain. The other one is dar'ul mafasid awla min jalb al-manafi'. It is also a very good legal maxims used in different ways and applicable to many activities of Muslim. So if you want to do something, you must make sure that you study the manafi' and masalih, mafasid in it. So based on this one, Islam prohibits drinking alcohol, riba, gambling, because of the mafasid in it. Daru al-mafasid أولى من جلب المصالح. The masalih for me is that I want to get this money to start my business. But there is mafasid in it. There is evil in it. So preventing that evil is better than attracting the benefit in it. And second to the last is إذا اجتمع الحل أو الحلال والحرام أو المبيح والمحرم غلب الحرام. If lawful and unlawful things conjure, preference will be given to the unlawful one. That is, you will go that this is unlawful, don't let me do it. In the business, when you see something, okay, yeah, I can do this, it is halal, but there is element of haramity in it, then you will consider that action as haram and you will give it up. You will give up that action. You will not embark on it. The evidence of scholar is that when the Prophet was talking about halal wal haram, it says al halal bayyinu wal haram bayyinu wa baynahuma umurun mushtabiha. And when he was talking at the end, فَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبْهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبْهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. So the Prophet ﷺ ascribed haramity to shubhat. That is haram to shubhat, and he doesn't ascribe halal to shubhat. So when two things are together and you cannot find the level playing in the two, then you will just prefer that this is haram, don't let me do it, because there will be a kind of infringing on the or breaching the law of Islam, which could be a darar to you and to the masses. Lastly, on the subsidiary today is يتحمل الضرر الخاص لدفع الضرر العام. That is, personal injury should be incurred in order to prevent general injury. As I said in my explanation about the masses and individual benefits, this is also the saying that sometimes the governments can decide to destroy houses because that house causing darar for them to expand the road or to beautify the country or to protect the masses. Then ad-darar al-khassa for the individual will be done in order to protect the darar that could happen to the masses. So this is also part of the maxims that is mentioned under the subsidiary maxim of ad-darar yuzar or la darar wa la dirar. Now we come to the applications. First of all prohibited trades in Islamic law are based on elimination of harm, of darar. What I mean by that is that be it riba, بيع الجهالة, الغرر, تلقي الركبان, any kind of bay that Islam prohibits are because of the harm that could emerge from them. And Islam doesn't want any usr, any darar for the Muslims. So the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hikmatullah, iqtada, necessitate that these activities, this kind of trading or sales or contract should be prohibited in order to eliminate darar for the Muslims. Let us take riba as an example. Prohibition of riba in Islam is based on elimination of darar. As we've seen today that many economists have been pointing out for a long time that the harmful impact of interest-based institution on the national and global economies. They have been saying that. And today we've seen the outcome of this. The inflation-wise, we've seen it. Unproductive and wasteful spending, both by individual and government, is much apparent. People will continue borrowing, lavishing money. Government also will be using money unwisely because they are getting it from loan. And invariably, they will become bankrupt. Decline in saving, real investment, employment opportunity are the consequence of interest-based loan. And as I said, inflation becomes a recipe for total economic instability. You see, some say that interest-based institutions we are doing in the world today are like creating money from nowhere. A simple example is that when the government printed, let's say, 1 trillion, injected 1 trillion into the society, they're supposed to expect 1 trillion back to the reserve. But when we are giving it out as with interest based, and we are putting 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%, according to the layers, invariably we will be expecting 2 trillion in the markets. 2 trillion. Where are we going to get this extra? It is not in the markets. So people will be struggling, striving to get this money, but it is not in the markets. We can't find it. And that will cause havoc, chaos, instability, and economic hardship to the masses. Then Islam prohibits it. So because of the harm that we engulf from it or emanate from it, Islam prohibits any kind of interest based. So these are some of the thought of scholars on the interest-based system that we are operating in the world today. Until when we go back to productive trading, where we are using money to trade, not as loan, and we sit down waiting for more money to come, then we'll be having hardship and we having harm and injury to the economy. Second application is all contracts which promote immorality or are against public policy are prohibited based on elimination of harm. Let me give you an example here, or examples. A sale or hiring of a weapon to a criminal who want to use it to kill innocent people is invalid in Islam. When the seller or the lessor is aware of this intention. So, yes, you are allowed to sell whatever you like, but if that sales will cause injury to human being, you are not allowed. You may say, I'm free to sell weapons, I'm free to sell cigarettes, and you know that it is harmful. Most importantly, I want to say today is that smoking, despite the fact that they wrote on the packet of cigarette, they said smoking is killing, but we still produce it and we still consume it. That is harm. And elimination of this harm is priority in Islam, because when we continue doing it, we are harming the society, and society will be decay and degenerating. For not to have this scenario, Islam prohibits any contract that will promote immorality or will against public policy in Islam. An example also will be a deceptive sales. When you are selling something that you know that it is not accurate, it is not as you describe it, then Islam doesn't want it. And that is why when the Prophet ﷺ went to the market and he saw that beneath of what he wanted to buy, there are bad dates or tomato or something like that item. And the owner, the seller, put good thing on the top. And the Prophet asked him, why did you do that? Are you not deceiving people? He said, no, there was rainfall and it destroyed it. And the Prophet said, Why can't you put the bad one on top and the good one beneath so that people can see? Mangashana falesa minna. Anyone who deceives us is not part of us. So any immoral sales contracts are not allowed because you deceive the others, you deceive the buyers, and they may regret afterward that, oh, we bought something which is not good. And the barakah of your trade or trading will not be there. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-bayyan bil khiyar, ma lam yatafarraqa. The two parties in buying and selling, they have option. If both of them say the truth and they are sincere, Allah will put barakah in their trading. وَإِن كَتَمَ وَإِن كَذِبَ وَخَتَمَ مُحِكَتْ بَرَكَةُ بَيْعِهِمَا. But if they deceive and they conceal some defects in the property, in the sales, Allah will remove the blessings in it. And that is why we see most of us are doing trade or business and we haven't succeeded because there's no sincerity, no trustworthiness in our activities. Ambiguous contract also is not allowed. You see some websites, they will put, oh, do this, and that. They will tell you all the good of the trade or the contract or the product in Islamic banking. But beneath, they will just write a very tiny sentences to describe the defect in it. That is not allowed. So you have to make both of them clear to the buyer that this product has pros and cons, so that the barakah will be in your sales. Defective contracts such as mawquf, we have what they call suspended contract. It is as a result of these elimination of darar, because if you continue doing it, that contract could harm your brother in Islam. So defective capacity of any of the parties, that is a transaction by a minor which has the likelihood of both benefit and harm, is valid subject to ratification, which may be accorded by the guardians after the transaction and before the minor attains puberty, or by the minor himself after puberty if the guardian did not object before his attaining puberty. What we are trying to say in this is that in Islam, Islam says that a minor, someone who is below age, cannot do any contracts. And if you buy something from a minor, that contract will become invalid or suspended until when we know that this contract benefits the minor. It has gain in it. But if there is any harm in it, darar, for that minor, then they will revoke that contract. They will not allow it to go because you are inflicting darar to that minor, because you know that is a minor, he hasn't attained age of puberty. So Islam says, don't do that. So the reason is that when you give them the money or you allow them to do the contract, they may not have that wisdom to bargain very well with others. Then they may be cheated, and that is harmful to their property. So Islam says, don't go to that. Prohibition of najash is also part of it. When you are bidding the price without an intention to take the delivery of the commodity, is not allowed in Islam. And if you do it, then it becomes darar to human being, and Islam doesn't want you to do it. So najash, as the Prophet says, he said, one who serves as an agent to bid up the price in an auction is a caused taker of riba. the Prophet vehemently renounced or denounced the person who did what they call a najash. I will najish is a najish. If you do that, you are being caused by the prophets, as reported by Hakim in his Sahih. Also, prohibition of kalaba, that is misleading marketing. So when you are doing the marketing, you are putting some words to describe a commodity that you know that it is not, then that is not allowed from Islamic point of view, because it could lead to harm to the others, and Islam doesn't want that to happen. Especially today, when we have what they call marketing strategy. Any marketing strategies that doesn't base is not based on Islamic ethics is not allowed, because majority of the marketing strategies today are to maximize the profits at the detriment of the buyer. So Islam doesn't want something like that. Defect that occur on a sold object. Islam also gives uh, opportunity for a buyer to return the objects that is he bought back if there is any defect that it is traceable to the seller. However, if any object has defects after you bought it, and when you bought it, there's a defect, but another defect occurs when you bought it, then Islam doesn't want you to return it back, because we also harm the seller. So Islam protects both rights. As it protects the seller's rights, Islam also protects the seller's rights. So in that case, there is a way of negotiation between the buyer and the seller when there is any defect occurs to the property that has been sold. Settling debts to eliminate harm of creditor is also part of the way of ad-darar yuzal. So if someone has a debt and he doesn't want to settle it, then Islam allows that his property should be sold in order to settle the debt, especially when the owner of the money, the creditor, is in need. And if you do not pay back to him, he may have a kind of shortfall in his business. So Islam allows authority to sell the property of a debtor in order to settle the creditor's money. However, we shouldn't infringe any darar on the debtor as well. We have to start from something movable before we get to the immovable property. So meaning that you must make sure that you do not inflict any darar to both of them in doing this. Penalty on defaulter. It is also part of elimination of darar. So if someone in the banking system today took al-qard al-hasan or in any other contract, murabaha profits, and he doesn't want to take money back, then it is allowed from Islamic point of view that we charge them penalty. Lidafa'i darar. Lidafa'i ad-darar. That darar is that we do not encourage him to procrastinate returning the money back. However, that money will not be used by the bank as part of the capital. It must be used as for charity or charitable activities. Okay, and that's the fatwa on this particular issue I mentioned. Other areas of application is the validity of pricing. The validity of pricing is established and legitimate if proprietors of the commodities transgress in sales through exorbitant default. So it is allowed if we think that the owner of commodities are transgressing in the market, then the government can regulate. also says of the monopolized foodstuff by force. It is also allowed in order to prevent the darar on the masses. Also in musharaka of joint property. So if someone wants to sell his own property or share, especially the major shareholders, if he wants to sell his property, he is not allowed to sell it to anyone. So the musharikun, the participant, the parties have right to buy it so that there will be no any darar on them. There will be no any darar on them. A law of ta'wid, of compensation, is also part of the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enacted so that we can eliminate any darar for anyone. So if there is any injury to anyone or someone destroy any other's property, there is a law of compensation, which is an act of elimination of darar to any other. Here also I mentioned if a financial institution is forced to lay off some employees or close branches to remain in business, it may do so since the harm of an insolvent institution is more severe than the suffering of a smaller number of employees. So the Maxims says, "Irtikab ahaf ad-darari." The greater injury is avoided by allowing the lesser injury to occur among the sellers. Bay'ul jabr, that is for sale, is also allowed, which I've mentioned before. Uh, a case study, which I think I will use to round up this scenario, is that if a debitor does not have enough money to pay his debt, he is termed insolvent or bankrupt. That is muflis in Islamic commercial law. So in that case, it must be ensured that the debtor is not resorting to fraudulent bankruptcy, in which case it can be pressed and even imprisoned for payment of debts. So in Islam, it is allowed to imprison someone who refuses to pay back what he has taken as a loan. However, if a person is really in trouble and there is little chance of his ability to pay in the foreseeable future, he can be declared insolvent. All his assets will be sold and the proceeds distributed among the creditors on a pro rata. So in this, Islam has given a mechanism that, yes, the first thing is to look into the debitor. If he claims insolvency, we have to study him very well because he may be hiding some property or assets. In that case, he may be punished or imprisoned. However, if we know for sure that he doesn't have anything to declare or to pay the money back, then we will declare him insolvent. But if he has anything, it can be sold to settle the debt. But how are we going to do that? Islam says we have to look into different people he owes. Then we have to pay the money back to them pro rata. He owes someone 1,000, another one 500, another one 200. You cannot say that you will give them 50-50. No, you will give them in a pro rata. You pay back to them pro rata according to what he has. Because what he has cannot settle all the debts. So you cannot give someone all the money he has. No, except if you can find out that this is my car I gave to him, then you are supposed to take that car. Otherwise, you are not allowed to take all the property, which is not enough to settle the debt of the debitor. So this should be the end of today's class. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the understanding of this class and to increase us in knowledge and to reward us of listening to the word of Allah in this life and in the hereafter. I'm very sorry for taking 5 minutes out of your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Doctor, mashallah, barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khairan. That was a very well explained lecture of the legal maxims, mashallah. And we now open the floor for question and answers. So let us listen to some questions. We wait from the our attendees and participants. I think there is Mustafa, Allah Mustafa. He raised hand to ask something. So we allow Brother Mustafa, please, you may ask the question. Brother Mustafa is with us. If there is any more questions or anyone would like to ask any explanation or would like to comment, please, this is your time. And we have some times for questions or explanations that you need. هل هناك سؤال أو استفسار؟ فليتفضل. الحضور الكرام، نحن ننتظر الأسئلة أو الاستفسار من حضرتكم، إما باللغة العربية أو الإنجليزية إن شاء الله. فلتتفضلوا. Yes, I think Dr. Lukman. So I think it was well explained by you about the legal maxims and also subsidiaries and how to apply this maxim into financial transactions. So you explain according to the Quran and Sunnah and Hadith. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all and also give us a strength to understand more about Islamic banking and finance and these legal maxims and how to apply in our practical life, in our financial transactions in the banks and also in our life. So I think Dr. Lokman, we can, if there is no more question or any comment, I think we can conclude here today. Okay. So, I think there is someone ask a question: how to practice the Islamic rules in the reality? Yeah, Dr. Lokman, please.
Well, there is reality and there is any pragmatic. So the reality is that we are facing difficulties sometimes to practice Islamic rules and injunctions as it's supposed to be. But never mind, last week lecture has taken care of this, that al-mashaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir. So if you are facing difficulties in applying the rules of Islam on, especially in Islamic banking and finance, then you have opportunity to apply or to indulge under the principle al-mashaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir and ad-daruratu bihu al-mahdhurat. But last week we've explained that don't take law into your hand. That is, when there's any mashaqqa, you have to evaluate the mashaqqa. You have to evaluate the difficulties. You cannot claim difficulties when there are alternatives. Someone went to abroad saying, oh, there is no any non-interest based bank in Britain, in America, so I will indulge in any riba. Have you done any search to make sure that there is no any alternative for it? So, application of the principle in reality, depending on your strength in Iman and your sincerity. And that is what is important today, that once you want to apply the rules of Islam, strive to make sure that you please Allah. Don't please yourself or please human being. You have to try to please Allah. Otherwise, you will do something that you will be questionable in the day of Qiyamah, because you do not take all the precaution to make sure that what you are doing under the pretext of darura is genuine and Allah has given you provision for it. But if you have a weak iman, then you can do it and it will be between you and Allah. It will be between you and Allah. So musibatu qawmin inda qawmin fawaid. So what is difficult for someone may not be difficult for another. And that is what I call relativity in application of Islamic rulings in different contexts. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to apply the law of Allah according to the injunction of Allah. Now,
Thank you very much, Dr. Lukman. Before we end this session, I would like to invite all the participants and attendees to the next English lecture will be held on Thursday, يوم الخميس في الساعة 12 ظهرا, 12 noon. That will be conducted by Dr. Habib Rahman from Sultan Zainul Abidin University, Malaysia. And the topic will be Al-Hawkama lil-Muassasat al-Maliyya al-Islamiyya, governance of Islamic financial institutions. Al-Hawkama lil-Muassasat al-Maliyya al-Islamiyya will be held in coming Thursday at 12 noon Kuwait time. So we would like to thank especially our lecturer today, special guest Dr. Luqman Zakaria, for your brilliant presentation and explanation of the legal maxims. And on behalf of Nadal Iqtisad Islami, our gratitude and thanks to you. And also we would like to thank all the participants, attendees, for your participation, attendance today. And we hope that you will continue attending our sessions, inshallah, in future. And our thanks go to مشرف العام دكتورة آلا وأعضاء اللجنة لنادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي and all who are involved in this نادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي. And thank you very much. May Allah bless us all, and may Allah give us a strength to understand Islam and Islamic banking and finance very well according to the Quran and Sunnah. I think we conclude here, and may Allah bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum.